December 13th, 2017, as it stands, is going to be remembered as the final day of, or at least final full day of net neutrality, prior to the FCC voting to repeal it on the 14th. And there is this feeling I have among, I think, many other people that though it is expected to happen tomorrow, you don't necessarily become disappointed because you know in your heart of hearts and from your perspective you did all you could to prevent it from happening. I called my senators, I called my congressmen, I spoke about it frequently to try and get some other people to pay attention to it. How you doing, Envoy? We're just getting ready to have our these are our this is our last what 20 30 hours of not restricted internet in terms of companies being able to just go and mess with you if they don't like you. So we're enjoying it. Me and you and the other two people in the chat room that won't say anything, or the other one person. So I'm very bothered by it, and this goes back to this thing of, and I don't like doing this, but I feel compelled to mention it. I want to know for the other two people that are in there, have you ever seen those who saw repeatedly net neutrality, net neutrality, net neutrality, or you hinted at it toward them and they just blew you off? Because I've had that happen several times. There was a person I was on the phone with about a week or so ago, and they regularly use the internet. I told them, this is going to happen. They just kind of kept doing this with their phone, or playing around with something else. And I know they heard me because when I made the joke of, you're going to try to log on one of your websites or that you'd like to go on, and if one of these companies doesn't like them, the second you click that button, you just see this big loading screen. They found it amusing. They giggled at it. And I'm not saying that they have some twisted sense of humor, but I am pointing out they were cognizant of what I was talking about. This wasn't something of, they just weren't hearing you or / weren't paying attention. No, they weren't hearing me because they weren't concerned with the warning. See, people have to sometimes get the results before they can take precautions. It's like the guy who sticks his hand in fire for the first time after people keep telling him, hey, you're going to get burned, you're going to get burned. He knows not to do that again after getting the just that heat on him. And I find it very problematic that we live in an era where people, it almost seems, unless they just willfully go and decide to learn about something, can only be made to want to know about something through having some assignment that calls for them to learn it. Okay, Envoy says what's crazy is that I think Americans will have outrage after it's passed, even though they should have been aware. No, they are aware. People just don't care. And look, you have to understand something, Envoy. I'll give you examples of how much people don't care. I had a person that I was talking to them, and they said, "Hey, I don't know about this." I made some mention of some historical figure. They said they didn't know who that was. I summed that person up in 3 sentences. They wouldn't read it. I can understand not wanting to watch a 40-minute documentary, not wanting to read an entire article about this. Okay, whatever. But 3 sentences. And they just refused to read it. They completely skimmed over it. 1, 2, 3. And it wasn't, I would say that is someone's life summed up in 30, I'd say historical significance summed up in 30 words. Envoy says we definitely live in an era where people have attention spans of squirrels. It's just so frustrating to want people to know about things, to try and exercise some level of patience, and to continuously be met with sticking of the fingers in the ears and the it gets just bothersome because you remember, even if you think, because I've had people do this, oh well, don't get mad about them not knowing it because you know it, so we counteract the people who don't know. Yeah, but the people who don't know are going to be just as affected by this as we are, as the people who supposedly do know. They're essentially saying because people exist that are not ignorant of something, people being ignorant about something is okay. And look, it's okay to not know things, but what's not okay is when someone tries to explain it to you, even if you think I'm lying and I say, okay, well, here's a source where you can go and read this and know it's not me making this up. You can go and look up December 14th FCC vote on net neutrality expected to be repealed and no, I'm not spreading some falsehood. And people still won't go and pay it any attention. I spoke with multiple individuals over the phone in the last several weeks, and I can count on my hand how many of them actually were giving a hoot about what was going on. And one of them even said to me, "Oh, I don't want to talk about this because people are already talking about it. That it's just going to be a regurgitation." Which, by that logic, only one of us should have been able to put up a reaction video to any of these elections. Unless we have an opinion that's just so much different from everyone else's. Only one of us should be able to review, the new Star Wars film, unless we have an opinion that differs from the masses. Again, this logic doesn't get applied anywhere else. But for some reason, it's been taken up to 11 here. I couldn't even type it. You got me. I don't know what you're referring to. Okay, Envoy said we have so much information coming our way via technology, it's hard to keep up. I don't know how. Well, here's my problem with that. You go back to the 40s or 50s when there was no computer, there was no Google or anything else where you can just type something in and there it is. People had to go to libraries. They had to go to through certain means to find information. I couldn't type in, I don't know, Thomas Jefferson's height and just get it in seconds. I had to go read a book, and maybe somewhere in that book they'll give his physical appearance. I couldn't type in, I don't know, what's something else to think of. The birth date of Benito Mussolini without. I couldn't do that 50 years ago. Now I can do that and just get it in seconds. Okay, Envoy said, but that's what makes people lazy and complacent. Here's the thing. I don't think, because people can be motivated to do things. They just have to have a rationale. And a lot of them from what I've seen in these past several weeks, don't get that same drive to just go out and want to learn things. Let me say something. The C-Lab Beach says, what's up? The death of net neutrality is on the horizon tomorrow. I don't know how long that stream is going to be. That thing might go for hours, depending on what exactly my scenario is tomorrow. Okay, Envoy says, it's like we know it's there. It will always be there, so we have no thirst for knowledge. I try my best to research about the world. I'm sorry, but in this age, it's so easy to learn things. It is not difficult at all to just go and grasp information that was not known prior or beforehand. It's very simplistic in this current era to just go and say, well, you know what? I want to know what happened during World War II. And then you just type in World War II and you get deadliest human conflict ever and millions of deaths. Started with the invasion of Poland. The leaders, the Axis and the Allies duking it out. There are things people can just get in moments. And all that stuff I just said right there, I can guarantee you that maybe 2 people currently checking this out are going to remember what I just said. Or even if they don't remember, they're not going to go back to, minute 9 of the stream and replay that and say, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to retain these 2 or 3 sentences that he just spouted out. I can guarantee that. And one can say you're being negative. I'm being pragmatic. When we have 300 million people living in the U.S. and we're only getting several hundreds of thousands of calls to Congress, that's how you know we're slipping up. and we have over 4/5 of Americans that use the internet. You know, I had another person that tried to say, as they were making the argument of why they shouldn't speak out about this or inform anyone of it. Oh, I just looked this up on YouTube, and there's, you know, several hundred thousands of views. I said, look, you can have several thousands of millions of views, and it's still not a majority of Americans. You know, what part of that do people not understand? And we've had videos on YouTube that get billions of views, so I know that we have enough people to go and watch something relating to it. Even if you thought my content wasn't adequately put together, there's still videos from TYT, Secular Talk, the Humanist Report, just groups that are online, or any of these major news organizations. I know some of you hate CNN, but that's another one, or Fox, or somewhere. So there's many sources you can just go to and check their stuff out. LOL, a billion views for news, but maybe a few thousands for news. Well, here's the thing. The only way you get news to have millions of views is if it goes viral over something, I don't want to say ridiculous, but almost just insane or kind of incredulous. So, for example, there was that video of the 10-year-old boy with that white face paint on that the reporter asked him about something, and he said, I like turtles, and it went viral. And you have to understand, with that billion of views for music, a lot of it isn't even actually watching the video. A lot of times people just take headphones, stick them in their ears, and start doing this and singing whichever popular song they can think of. This is them. These are the billions of views. Billions of people doing this. Playing bobblehead for, 3 to 4 minutes. Sometimes 5. So, those billions of views, while they're accurate, they still don't reflect an actual intellectual understanding of things. Again, most of the content that gets a large portion of views is not in any way informative nor really showing of how things work within the context of society. You'll have videos of people getting kicked in the shin that'll get, you know, millions of views. Cats playing the piano. But as far as an issue that's going to affect the lives of millions, nothing. And are very little. And that's scary. Again, our attention spans need, you know, they talk about reforms on healthcare and education. They need a reform on just what people pay attention to, what's considered important priorities. And, you know, I can tolerate not being viewed by 100 or whatever high number that might seem semi-satisfactory to me, but you have groups that do put a presentation in order that reflect this issue, and they're still being overlooked in favor of, you know, whichever music video came out, or, as I said before, the cat playing the piano, or I don't know, the dog on roller skates, or the turtle in the snow, or the cat in the desert, or the lizard in the sand. There's just all kind of other things that get viewed way more because they're incredulous to the eyes of those who are checking it out. Yeah, Cat in the Hat envoy. Dr. Seuss is making a comeback. So I'm really hoping that, just for those of you who aren't religious, you might pray tonight for the internet to be safe. There was some story about a Republican lawmaker that came forward and was talking about how he opposed the act of repealing it, and, you know, that's nice to hear, but we need Republican and Democrat lawmakers to come out in droves. We need people to come out in millions. There needs to be this widespread revolt where you have people with pitchforks. You know, you can't, this is ridiculous, this is insane. And of course someone will say, oh, you're trying to incite violence. No, I'm saying they've protested over Trump being inaugurated. They've protested, actually many times over Trump being inaugurated. We need that turnout times 10 to make an impact. What we saw at the inauguration earlier this year, we need to see when it comes to this repeal. There needs to be just massive demonstrations. And preferably in Washington, not because people make the mistake of saying, okay, well, I live in this state, so I'm going to hold up a picket sign where I live, Instead, go to Washington or people that live over there and protest. Go in front, stand in front of the White House. You know, show them your discontent, but don't make things harder for your neighbors who, you know, try to work honestly and are affected by an economy that's acted all kind of ways in recent years. So I'll try to have something else up tomorrow. I'm configuring what I'm going to do as it pertains to this. I know I'll have a stream up, but I'll try to see what the context of it will be. I might do something uh, dramatic, such as give it some catchy title, or net neutrality gets slayed, or something of that nature, depending on what exactly happens. Which we already know what's going to happen, but when it happens and what my conditions are will be very indicative of what my response to it is. You know, I will eventually, inevitably respond to the circumstances that arise from whichever outcome we get. So, thank you for those who have checked this out. Make sure that you keep